Hello, my name's Angus McLEOD, and this is the first short video of Tips for Coaches Series 1, all of which are free. And after this video, if you want to see the others, you just register for nothing. We don't want credit card numbers or anything like that, or personal family histories. Just clock in with an email address, and then on a weekly basis we'll send you a link so that if you wish to, you can hear the rest of the series. There's also a slightly more advanced series, Series 2 of Tips for Coaches, as well for those of you who are interested in that. Now, the purpose of these isn't to be necessarily enormously slick and professional. It's really supposed to, I hope, make some sort of connection to the world of coaching and what that is for me, and to offer you from some experience some of my own feelings and thoughts about coaching. So let's start with this video with what I believe coaching is and what it isn't. So what is coaching? Coaching is all about now and the issues and goals of now and aspirations for the future, whether that's for life coaching or whether it's for executive coaching. And if an individual brings an issue rather than a target or a goal, then ultimately, through questioning, we convert that issue for them and with them into a goal. Now, that language isn't terribly accurate, because in a sense what we're doing is facilitating that process. So ideally a coach will start from the angle that they are asking questions in order to help that individual understand more about themselves and their own thinking, more about their own motivations, more about their limitations and their strengths, so that they find that target, that goal for themselves, and then the coach is going to help make that a real and achievable target or goal by checking in with them and asking appropriate questions. So in all that process, questioning, as you can see, is absolutely vital. And questioning is the basic talent of facilitation as opposed to telling and directing. Now, coaching and the word coach do have some fairly confused understandings out there. So there are coaches who tell people what to do. There are coaches who humiliate people and do that on television. So we see all sorts of coaches. We see people full of ego, we see people who are desperate to show how clever they are. And for me that isn't coaching at all, because coaching and coaches working from a facilitating style are really there for their coachee, for the person they are coaching, not for themselves. And so really and truly, if you want to do that sort of coaching, and I certainly recommend it, then it's a good idea to start from that humble, that belief, that humble sense of being with someone and being in service to that individual. So a coach will be working in that sense with individuals and asking questions, and one of the great advantages of that is the individual finds their own way and their motivations are therefore higher. So if I say to you, I think you ought to have a smaller car, it's too big, I can see you've knocked it around, the doors are battered, you need smaller doors that aren't going to get smashed, etc., and your bumpers are in a state, you'd probably say, well, yeah, thanks very much, but no. I mean, we don't want to be told normally what to do, unless we really are in a very hopeless state. So if we want to be motivated, we need to find our own motivations, we need to find our own way. And that's why I think this type of coaching, which I call performance coaching, is, I think, the best way to coach. In practice then, in looking at issues and looking at goals and asking the questions that help people to move on, what else do we find? Well, what we usually find with individuals is the reason they're talking to us at all is because they haven't really thought things through very well. And the coach is going to help them to do that. And as that goes on, the coach will hear some things which are let's call them old patterns, old beliefs which are no longer valid or useful to them. And so the job of the coach actually is to have enough rapport with that individual, enough trust built up with that individual, that they can offer feedback to that individual on those observed patterns and ask them on their take about what you're giving them back. So the coach is not only looking at questioning in order to take issues and convert those to targets or goals, or to look at specific goals that an individual wants, and we'll talk more about that in a later video because there are some conflicts in that sometimes, but also looking at the old patterns and beliefs that an individual may have that is getting in the way of their achievement. Now, the great thing about the type of coaching I do is that people should be learning to think better for themselves in a sustainable way. So I'm not in a business that is trying to perpetuate a need for my facilitating talent. I'm only there perhaps for 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions. I think the most I've ever done is probably 10 with one individual over one given period. The whole point isn't to lock oneself in and make as much money out of people. The whole point is it's a service to those individuals, and of course if we're good at it we should get paid for that too. The other thing worth mentioning is that coaching isn't just about facilitation. It can be that when you ask a question, the individual who may clearly need some help in the area of understanding their emotions or being able to express themselves better, actually are completely lost from a lack of attention in that area, from a lack of understanding, from even not understanding the words when you're talking about specific emotions, for example, or asking questions about those emotions. And so it may be that we have to provide context. Now, that type of coaching is then coming to what I'd call mentoring. So we're then perhaps offering some stories, some examples, perhaps a little bit of content. And if you ask a question and their mouth drops open, they're really not getting it, they don't have enough experience, they don't have enough context, and you're providing some context and they're still not getting it, then you can either move on, or if you really feel this is important to their development and you get their buy-in for that, through the rapport, through the trust that you've developed, then you can offer some actual detail, perhaps a simple model, some exercises to take away with them and then come back, so that it's out of that expensive one-to-one setting, but to offer them support and offer them information to allow them to grow some context so that they can get back into a position where you can start asking the sorts of questions that helps them move on. What coaching isn't to my mind, is not telling people starting from that place, from telling and directing, trying to be clever, trying to show off, bombarding them with all sorts of tools and methods and ideas and concepts and stuff like that. It shouldn't start from there. Some of that may be part of that process for that individual if and when they get stuck through the process. So what I'm saying is that for most of the people, most of the time, you're coaching them using their own skills and their own ability, and they take those abilities and they move forward with them largely on their own. And we, the coaches, are just facilitating that process. Now that needs discipline, because it means we should start our coaching asking questions, and those questions are for them, not for ourselves. The questions are to give them the chance to concentrate and focus and learn and self-reflect on the answer to those questions. So that's what those questions are for. The questions are all for them. So I think that probably gets us to a reasonable place to stop. The purpose of these videos isn't to go on and on and on and on. It's to keep them relatively short so that you have the chance, if you wish, to absorb some of that and then move on. And as we go on, there'll be less content probably than this first video. This first one, I hope, sets the scene, If you want to get the next 9 in this series and the 10 in the next series, then just subscribe, free, no credit cards, nothing needed from you in that, just an email address, and you can hear the rest of them for nothing. Thanks for your attention.